pancake and power slam. Turn it up, turn it up. It's the pancake and power slam. Turn it up, turn it up. It's the pancake and power slam show. Turn it up, turn it up. It's the pancake and power slam. Turn it up, turn it up. It's the pancake and power slam. Turn it up, turn it up. It's the pancake and power slam show. Turn it up.
All right, y'all, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We got some things to talk about tonight, y'all. All right. It's your time. You know, this time is for sharing. And, man, this is probably one of the most thorough classes that I'm going to do in this series of classes that I've started over the past, couple months now. And so, yeah, we've had some really, really cool topics, negative commenters, depression when it comes to pro wrestling, why man won't watch pro wrestling. We've had some really, really fun topics, but man, we talked about sibling rivalry recently. But man, class, it's going to be fun today, y'all. Yeah. So come on in, share the link. Come on in. We're going to talk about canceling. We're going to talk about cancel culture and how in the world does this relate to Hulk Hogan. It's not by any stretch of the imagination a far-fetch. So come on in. We already got 3 digits. Come on in. Thank you very much for your support as always. Come on in. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Share the link. Share the link. Come on in. Come on in, class. The bell has not rang yet. So tell your friends, tell your family, share the link. And we're going to have some fun tonight talking about canceling. Talking about cancel culture. So Hulk Hogan, man, when it comes stretching down and it hurts inside, you got to take a stand. You can't help the fight, right? My goodness. What's the real American lyrics? Oh, yeah, when it comes crashing down and it hurts inside, you got to take a stand and don't help to hide. If you hurt my friends, then you hurt my pride. I got to lend a hand. It don't help to hide. Well, I stand strong about right and wrong, and I don't take trouble for very long because I've got something deep inside of me. Courage is the thing that keeps us free. What a wonderful, wonderful, inspirational song. But according to the pro wrestling community, it was placed on the wrong person last night. We're going to talk about it. So come on. I'm going to break down the psychology behind canceling someone, cancel culture, and got a question for you all at the very end of this class. And of course, we do Q&A after that. I got a question for you all, and I really want to target the Q&A on. I want y'all to, of course, hashtag #AskDoc, and I want y'all to answer this question at the end. I really want to know about, like, I'm legit wanting to know about this. I'm curious to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Even if I'm the only inquiring mind, I really want to know the question I'm going to ask at the end of this class. So, yeah, I'm going to break down cancel culture. I'm going to break down what it means, what the origin of it, what it stands for, and how it's become in the transition, the migration of cancel culture. So come on in, hashtag #AskDoc. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go, man. Class is in session. All right, so let's start off with what does it mean to be canceled? All right. So canceling, so this is from Meredith Clark. Canceling can be described as an expression of agency, a choice to withdraw one's attention from someone or something whose values, action or inaction, or speech are so offensive, one no longer wishes to grace them with their presence, time, and money. That is the backdrop of this show tonight. That is the backdrop of what happened at last night's Raw. That is the backdrop of what canceling means. That is what canceling means. That's what we've seen canceling to mean nowadays. That's the modern day of canceling. But here's the funny thing about this. The origin of canceling is believed, and this is from Vox. This is Vox report this. Is believed to derive from the 1991 film New Jack City. I remember watching that as a kid. Probably wasn't the best thing to watch as a kid, but I've watched it, so I know the scene. This is when Nino Brown, so Wesley Snipes played Nino Brown, and he said to his girlfriend, "Cancel that B, I'll buy another." And this is after she broke down because of all of his violence. All right, so that's one of the first times we heard cancel from a public standpoint. Now canceling, it was a thing in the 80s. Like canceling as a thing was that even stemmed from the 80s when it comes to breakups and relationships. So canceling as a term when it comes to ending something, that was something that was it's been a thing for a while. Okay, so we'll get to it. We're not doing, we're definitely not going to do negative energy here. We're absolutely not doing it. Nope. People who come on PNP, we know good and well we are not going to do any negative energy whatsoever. I will boot you, and you will get the bye-bye. You will get the bye-bye. Bye-bye. You will get the bye-bye. So recalibrates, listen to the class. I don't need students talking amongst yourselves while I'm trying to teach right now. Get your questions ready and ask Doc. Get your questions ready. Listen to the class. But nope, we're not doing any negative energy up in here. That's not what we do here. Not whatsoever. So Nino Brown talked about, and y'all can disagree civilly. Civil disagreement is just fine. I mean, two adults disagreeing, that's totally fine. But disagreeing like children and ad hominems and all that, nah, man, we don't bring that energy over here. All right, so Nino Brown, I remember watching this as a kid. I remember watching this as a kid. New Jack City. Would I ever allow my kids to watch New Jack City? Absolutely not. But at the same time, I was a big movie guy, and I had some freedom. Probably not the best, but I had some freedom. And I'll get to these the questions in a minute. Good questions, by the way. So yeah, interesting movie, very raunchy movie, but that's where we get more of a public display of canceling as first used. And so in 2014, we see, 13 years later, we see a episode of Love and Hip Hop New York. All right. So this is one of the first big boosts of the word cancel. All right. So this is when cast member Cisco Rosado, and I saw this clip too, and I saw this clip. The clip was a little bit over 5 minutes long, and I'm like, "What the heck is this, man? This is nuts." I can't imagine in 8,300 worlds how anyone would ever watch a full episode and be able to indulge in a full episode of Love and Hip Hop. I heard, from what I know, there's been a bunch of series of Love and Hip Hop. And I watched 5 minutes and I wanted to just, gouge my eyes out and just plug my ears. And yeah, so this moment that I saw was this guy by the name of he was Cisco Rosado tells his love interest Diamond Strawberry during a fight, "You're canceled." And I saw it because they were fighting, and it seems so scripted, by the way. I mean, it seems so scripted. But she was going all over the place. She was getting animated, and then they were going back and forth. She was yelling, and then all of a sudden they were arguing, and he says, "You're canceled." And so the interesting part of that was 2014. And then we saw on socials around 2015 and on, people started to cancel people. That started to become like the cancel thing started to become like a cult-like phenomenon, started to blow up on social media. And the phrase started off being an expression of something you disapprove of. Like that was the whole point of canceling. Like, that thing that this person did, is canceled, or this person is canceled for doing this. It was originally like toward friends and family and our acquaintances, but then it started to become, and it started to get real hot and started to be a term to describe celebrities or entities whose behavior offended you. So starting off from the Nino Brown type of demeaning, "You're canceled," it wasn't something that the girlfriend did wrong. It was just Nino Brown using his power trip to basically further minimize and degrade his girlfriend at the time. So that was completely that was completely different than what we see now. Usually the one who's canceled, so to speak, is the one who has that decision, who's more of in a prominent spot. And then you get like a legion of people, a cult-like legion of people wanting to cancel a certain celebrity or entity or movement or whatever. And so definitely different than what we saw from a pop culture standpoint originally. And then it started to blow up about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. And because of that, this was the beginning of a transition to boycotting publicly and collectively now, and that's now known as cancel culture. And so it's oftentimes used in a political or a pop culture context. Now, here's the interesting thing about cancel culture from a research standpoint. Pew Research, two of the, Barna's real big, and Pew's a really popular research company. So they did it was really interesting. They did a recent research. Yeah. So not trying to fight. Okay. So yeah, we're definitely not going to do any, because I'm a little trigger happy here, and we don't do negative energy here. Disagree is cool, but no ad hominem. So that's a sign of defeat. Ad hominems is a sign of intellectual defeat. You don't want to do that. So a Pew Research study recently did this, and it was really interesting. It showed that 56% of adults in the United States either did not, and this is hilarious, either did not know too much about the term, so 18%, or had no knowledge at all of the term, 38%. So collectively, 56% of United States adults either knew little or didn't know at all the term and the meaning behind what cancel culture meant. And this was a recent study from Pew. And so, and the 44%, and it was split in half, 22% knowing a fair amount and 22% knowing a great deal about the term. So out of those numbers, the biggest demographic that knew about the term was the 18 to 29 year old demographic, and the least demographic, interestingly enough, is those who are high school age or younger. So not a lot of so statistically, not a lot of people, or the minority amount of people who know about the term cancel culture are high school age or younger. So the 18 to 29 demographic is the one flooding our minds with this cancel culture stuff. And this generation of 18 to 29 year olds, they've infiltrated the socials, and they've infiltrated what we see nowadays when it comes to that. So yeah, we're not going to do humiliated, all that stuff. No, we ain't doing that. All right, so here we go. Now we have so this is an interesting quote. So Thomas Chatterton Williams, I believe he writes for The Atlantic now, but he used to be a contributing writer for the New York Times. And so he talked about how cancel culture has now been migrated to what's I quote, shutting people down or shutting someone down, targeting their employment, and making an example out of them so that others take note. That's essentially what we see all the time when it comes to cancel culture. To a T, we see that when it comes to cancel culture. He also adds this. He said that cancel culture is, quote, not about holding people accountable. Holding someone accountable means they can mount a defense, they can respond, and it can be back and forth. So I think that's very vital when it comes to cancel culture, that oftentimes you have such a enormous group of people that are banding against one cause, and it's not about, I don't really care about what you think about it. It's not about even caring about your opinion or wanting your opinion. We just are going to collectively as a group shut you down without caring about what you think, caring about what you say. We're going to shut you down and make an example out of you so that others take note. Now, making an example out of someone who committed just a horrible act and canceling them. Now, on the surface, that is not completely a bad thing. However, what we've seen so much within the cancel culture is that it's become a thing where people just legitimately don't care about what someone has to say. And if someone's canceled, then you start to the forgiveness factor starts to disintegrate. And that's when it's like, man, listen, it is just, do you want to be a part of the cancel culture and feel comfortable and feel like this feel accepted to be a part of this rebel culture of just canceling people and booing people? Or do you want to actually legitimately forgive someone and grow from a certain thing and not hold something in? And when you're dealing with just outside of the pop culture bubble, outside of the social media bubble, it is canceling someone for disliking or not knowing. That's actually very unhealthy when it comes to social psychology. It's a very unhealthy concept, especially when you start to get to the groupthink and the collectivism when it comes to social conformity bias and things like that, and conformity bias. We talked about conformity bias before, and you don't want to get to that. Cancel culture it quickly just gravitates to that unhealthy, toxic type of conformity bias, and it becomes like a statute or a trophy of success or an accomplishment if you're able to successfully drive someone out. Now, here's the thing: when you drive them out, are you really driving them out because they haven't apologized, or they haven't, or there's one thing or two things that they did, they admit that it was a problem, but the problem is people still cancel those people. And it's like you have a lot of virtue signaling and a lot of moral police. But when we look at your closet and we have if someone had a bird's eye view of your house and your day and your phone calls, are you reflecting the principles that you're trying to cancel? The opposing principles are reflecting the opposing principles that you're trying to cancel. Have you ever said something that was disrespectful or even greatly offensive to someone? So it's an interesting concept when it comes to cancel culture. So here's my question. Like, here's a couple of things. All right, so was it Hogan's 2005 reported incident when it comes to talking about him being racist, him throwing out the M word, the situation with his son Nick when he talked about punishment from God if he comes back black? Now, absolutely deplorable, absolutely inappropriate, defenseless. I mean, that alone, there's no way to really spin that. I have a degree in PR, my undergrad degrees in PR. You can't really spin that. That's one of those things. Is like, yeah, you know what? I'll take that one. That one's on me. That was on me. No need to spin it. It was, and to be honest with you, I do remember. This was about 10 years ago. I do remember looking at this, and there was some videos of Hogan saying that how he was raised. He never heard that word, so he didn't know. I'm like, oh, come on. I mean, like, that's as cap can get. I mean, I'm like, come on, Hogan, don't do this, man. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't make the situation much worse. Like, stop the press. I think I've shared this before. I think I've shared this example before. Back in the day, my grandma stayed for a huge portion of my life. I stayed with my grandma, and I was a kid. I was a baby. I mean, probably preteen, early teen, something like that. I forgot how old I was, but I really wanted to help my grandmother. She was heading off to work. She was a cook. All growing up, I knew her to be a cook, and she was a great one. She worked professionally as a cook, and she laid out her clothes, and she had a white sweater with some with some print on. I forgot what even the print was. It was just a graphic print on a white sweater, and I wanted to be just nice and say, oh, I'm gonna pleasantly surprise my grandmother, and I'm going to iron her sweater. That was a horrible, horrible idea. Why was that a horrible idea? because I started to iron her sweater. And at this time, I had no idea that if you know if it's a screen print, if you iron that thing, it's going to absolutely ruin it. So, so what? I'm trying to be nice. I'm ironing the sweater, and then I start to smear it, and I'm like, oh boy. Let me try to unsmear this thing. And I kept going. And it was bad news. And by the time she came in, she was very gracious. So kudos to her for that. I thought, I was like, man, I'm gonna die today. Like this is horrible. This is absolutely horrible. I was trying to be nice, but I just kept pressing. I made a mistake and started to smear a little bit, and then it just kept pressing. So I'm thinking in my head, like, Hogan, stop pressing. Stop pressing, Hogan. Don't make this thing worse than what it already is. You already smeared it a bit. Don't keep pressing. And those videos that I saw of him talking about grew up, never heard. Nah, man. Nah, read the room. Read the room. Understand that you have an entire culture who is very upset at you doing that. So just own it. This one's on me. This one's on me. And I think personally, as a black man, that it would have been a lot more gracious than what we saw subsequently afterwards. And so I understand that, and I think it does. I think it does compound with his political views to many people. A lot of time, I heard a lot this weekend of people saying Triple H is, he's red, Undertaker's red. They both got cheered, but they don't have. They're not sticky. They're not sticky. Hogan's sticky to a lot of people. Triple H isn't sticky. Undertaker isn't sticky. Hogan is sticky when it comes to the political leaning for many people, specifically in California, specifically in LA. I mean, you want to talk about one of the bluest cities. LA is one of them. So you're bringing in Hogan, who is cutting a promo about, and people are saying, we don't want you anymore. And the thing is, the whole we don't want you anymore, like that wasn't a thing for Hogan for a long time. I mean, people still love the nostalgia of Hulk Hogan, but I do think it became more of Hogan, the compilation of the racism incident, when it comes to the audio, the political stuff, which I don't think of the 2005 incident was a thing. I don't necessarily think that the politics would have had as much weight to it. However, I do think the very fact that he spoke at the RNC, I do think that became even more weight, because he's not like he's not just a quiet Republican to many liberals in their mindset. He's not a quiet Republican, more like a Taker. Taker's not necessarily a quiet one either, but he's a lot quieter than Hogan in the mind of a liberal. And so Hogan is like speech, RNC type of deal. That, along with what happened 20 years ago, that's just a toxic concoction of, we're going to boo you out the arena. So that's what I do see. I do see that. Do I agree or disagree with it? I mean, I'm not here for that. But that's what I see observationally from what made Hogan's reaction different than other Republicans that were other outspoken Republicans that were on that show that got cheered. And here's the thing, man. It just makes me think about this. And I mentioned this in my previous show. What is the difference? Like, what's the litmus test of forgiveness to a pro wrestling fan? Like in the pro wrestling culture, what makes someone forgiven? Because Hogan, what he did was absolutely deplorable, unacceptable, 100%. But there's other people who's done things just as deplorable, just as unacceptable, and they're forgiven. So I'm like, what's the difference here? I'm really, really wanting to know that from a pro wrestling culture perspective. I'm really wanting to know that. What makes the difference? What's the criteria to a pro wrestling fan of, yeah, this person really committed a bunch of heinous acts, unforgivable, canceled. But this person committed heinous acts too. I'll forgive him. One's canceled, one's forgiven. What's the difference? And that's what I'm interested in knowing about. Colin May said one of the most recurrent themes in cancellation is the effort by the cancelers and their allies to obtain a statement of guilt or apology from the target as a means of holding the victim accountable. So it makes me wonder. All right, so here's my question to you, PNP Nation. Would a heartfelt apology be sufficient to you as a pro wrestling fan? Would a Hulk Hogan apology of like, hey, you know what? I'm a straight up apologize. I'm going to go on IG. I'm going to make a YouTube video about it. I'm going to really sit down with some spiritual leaders because he's been on interviews and stuff like that to really talk about like he recently got baptized last year, I believe, or like a year or two ago. I think it was last year, somewhere close to that. Was on, Christian interviews as far as his faith is concerned, all those things. So it's like, is it of course it's a very Christian thing to do to forgive, but it's like, confess your faults, right? One to another. So could be, and pray for another so you may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of righteous availeth much. If he has a spirit of confession, is that sufficient to you as a pro wrestling fan of saying, you know what, I will give you the forgiveness flag, and I'm definitely, what you did is never going to be accepted, but it's going to be forgiven, and we have moved on. So it just makes me wonder, like, would an apology be sufficient to pro wrestling fans? So I really want to spend a lot of time, the rest of the time here, getting your thoughts. I mean, there's a lot of people here live. Again, thank you so much. I really, and first of all, y'all keep showing up, and I appreciate that. Y'all keep showing up. Y'all keep doing a wonderful job with supporting my show every single week. So there's a lot of people in here right now. I'm really interested in taking the next little bit of time to hearing your thoughts. Hashtag Ask Doc. Those are the ones that pulls up the most, that I pay attention to the most. Hashtag Ask Doc. Ask your question and or let me know what you think, man. Let me know what you think. So basically, that's the history of the origin of cancel culture, how it's migrated to what we see today when it comes to cancel culture. Definitely how that applies to Hulk Hogan as far as just this chorus of boos and negative behavior. People say he's old and outdated, but there's other people who come out. I mean, Flair is older than he is, and people cheer Flair. So the old thing by itself doesn't work for me. The heinous acts, deplorable acts, to me doesn't work for me either. The calling someone the N-word doesn't work for me either. Like, these are just standalone incidents, because all of those things that I just said, other wrestlers have done. So and those wrestlers have been forgiven, or those talent and wrestlers have been forgiven. I just mentioned one of them. So like, it's just what's the threshold here? What this person gets cheered, said the N-word. This person gets canceled, said the N-word. I'm really, really interested. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, that was the class for today. That was fun, man. That is cancel culture in not necessarily in a nutshell. We spent the past half an hour talking about cancel culture. So that was of course there's way more nuances that I broke it down. So in a nutshell-ish, but definitely a detailed version of cancel culture when it comes to the public eye, where to start and where it's at. So and where it started and where it's at are two completely different things now. But we got to go with the flow, I guess, when it comes to that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for the question cast. All right, y'all. Man, this is a fun topic. I had another topic at hand to talk about, which was also another fun topic. But I was like, man, I cannot miss out on this Hogan stuff. Like, I cannot miss out on psychologically breaking down this promo, this Hogan stuff. I can't do that because I was thinking in my head, like, man, I have to break this down educationally. I have to break this down psychologically for people to understand this canceling stuff. What makes people cancel? What's the origin behind that? And why do people do it? And why in the heck is Hulk Hogan such a victim of this? I say victim loosely because, I mean, he did some very heinous made some very heinous decisions, admittedly. So he's definitely not the victim in the standpoint of being not guilty for what he did, because he's even admit that. And if you admit it or not, that doesn't matter. So I mean, you still did what you did and it was wrong. But he is the victim of this cancel culture, whereas again, other wrestlers who's done the same thing is not. So I'm really like legit, and I don't have I'm really inquiring. Like I'm really trying to find out, like, what's the basis, what's the criteria of this thing, and what makes Hogan such a public enemy number one when it comes to the pro wrestling circle, the pro wrestling sphere over the past 24 plus hours. All right, so I'm gonna really address more of the Hogan stuff. We're going to talk more about that because based on my time, I really want to talk about this Hogan stuff. Rollin talks about what Rollin said. What's up, Dr. Chris? This has been such a hilarious past 2 days. It has. Nobody remembers anything from Raw's debut on Netflix except Hogan being booed out of California. It's interesting, man. It really, really is interesting how media works. First of all, I mean, media, as Eric Bischoff says very, very beautifully, controversy creates cash. And I would even throw in, from a psychological standpoint, even if the controversy was just kind of unwarranted or unintentional. I mean, that's really what I'm looking for. If the controversy was unintentional, it still creates clicks, and that's the thing. Unintentional controversy, it still creates clicks, and that's what we're seeing in this click culture, this clip and click culture. We are definitely seeing a ton of clicks when it comes to Hulk Hogan. He did not open the cockpit door, as as the Ultimate Warrior has said. Entertainment Tonight and Newsweek didn't mention anything from the Raw premiere of Netflix, except for Hogan being publicly humiliated yesterday. Again, I had to be the investigative journalist that I am and start digging. I automatically got some sources that I knew close to the situation, and had a phone conversation, and I talked to some sources, chatted, did some things, and I was able to get some intel on Hogan's reaction based on what they said Hogan's reaction was. And yeah, it's quite interesting, man. And I talked about that on Sports Key to cover that. The information I received as far as Hogan's concerned. But here's the thing, man. I know that was one of my biggest things that I wanted to cover today, that I wanted to talk about. I had a break at work in between clients, making phone calls, sending messages, like digging while I'm doing therapy, getting a high of, this journalism stuff. And, so I can get a good report in. And it was exhilarating for sure. And I knew for a fact, I actually had another story that I sent, that I broke, that I had another exclusive that I was going to launch. And I was like, you know what, man, that's cool. But nah, man, this Hogan stuff is like top story. And it definitely was. I get notifications like every second of people commenting on the Hogan stuff that I reported today. And I knew it. And that's the thing. That's what happens with media. Whatever's the top story, the media clings to, man, because that's what creates clicks, and clicks create cash, because it's all about the money. It's all about the money. When a crowd starts booing, it hurts inside. Let me give you one of those. There you go. All right. Yeah, Hogan stuff. Here we go, rolling again. I think that others don't get it as bad as Hogan because he is supported to be a symbol of an American character, and people believe that Hogan represents the old wicked racist symbol of America. I mean, I can understand that. I can understand that, but it still does not. I can understand that, but it still doesn't answer my question. It doesn't answer my question of what makes Hogan, because to me, that just seems like discrimination. Like, okay, so other people can do it, but since Hogan is more of a representative of America and what you said, the old wicked racist symbol of America, based on an audio clip from 20 years ago, and before then and after then, many other wrestlers have said the same type of jargon, unacceptable jargon that Hogan has said, but because he's an American character, he's the one who gets the brunt of it, but the other wrestlers don't. Again, I really want to know that. I really want to know it. It's just I'm hungry and I'm thirsty for someone explaining that. I'm really interested. Yosef, Hogan is Christian. Do you believe that even though he supports drinking beer? I mean, the Bible talks about drunkenness. I'm not a beer drinker myself, but drinking is not a sin. Drunkenness is a sin. So being a witness is important too. So, it's where do you drink? How do you drink? Who do you drink around? Are you mentoring someone? Like, all those things really matter when it comes to just being a light and witnessing from a Christian perspective. But I mean, if he's, promoting beer, don't get drunk. I mean, that's the sin from a biblical perspective. Although drinking beer is just, it's a bad idea, period. I mean, there's no nutritional value to drinking beer. So, I mean, and then it can lead, I mean, I can break down beer drinking so much from a psychological standpoint of why it's just a bad idea. But I mean, you know, when it comes to Christianity and alcohol, you know, it's not, you can be a Christian and drink alcohol. That's not a sin. Being a Christian and being drunk, that's a lack of self-control, and self-control is a fruit of the spirit. So you don't want to do that. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's a direct correlation there of one or the other, or a direct contrast, I should say. Yosef said, why people saying Hogan is racist, but no one calls Vince a rapist or sexist, sexiest, but I think he means sexist. You know, look, I don't have that answer. I can't answer that. That's what I'm trying to find out. Like, I don't know. I mean, you know, all the allegations that, you know, come with Vince McMahon, and yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if Vince McMahon becomes guilty as charged, and he came out and no chance came out, would he get booed? And Vince McMahon is also a very staunch Republican, so a Trump supporter. And so it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder. It makes me wonder. Let's see. What else do we got? Yes, I agree. Cancel culture is his own entity. Yes, the Nino Brown gig. Gen Z has so much people because they want to hate, not love. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, love. Robert, I'll get to that if I have time, but I really want to get to this Hogan stuff. Yosef, why didn't my generation cancel people like Gen Z? They tried to cancel Eminem, and my generation said, nope, Gen Z. I'm 37 and never cared about cancel culture. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Again, I'm trying to find out these questions. Y'all help me. I mean, I'm really trying to find out why. I mean, why is it this but not that? Why can't it be both or neither? I mean, I'm a consistency guy. Give me consistency. Consistency, just cancel them all or don't cancel them at all. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, explain to me why this person should be canceled, this person should not. And they are both guilty with very, very similar charges. That's what I'm really interested in that. What's up, Av? If I'm Hogan, I would either hang it up or just show us Hollywood Hogan in the future. Somehow, if I was a PR guy, man, like he you know, there's a coolness to being booed in this culture nowadays. If I was his PR guy, I do have a degree in PR, but if I was his PR guy, I would be like, hey, man, you better come out with the NWO gimmick. And if you're getting booed, cut a heel promo and say, hey, shut up and drink my beer. You know, like, just, hey, go for it. Go all out, man. Do something. But he's definitely the biggest heel in professional wrestling right now. So, let me see. Rollins says, I think a lot of people weaponize Christianity and forgiveness to get black people to let white people do racist things. So they want Hogan to say that black people are less than human. You know, here's the thing with that, man. Look, at the end of the day, people are extremely fallible. People are not perfect. But whether you want to weaponize Christianity or not, that doesn't make Christianity false. If I can have a knife in my hand, the knife isn't wrong. The holder of the knife is the wrong person. Like, I can do a lot of very, very positive things with a knife. I can cut things that need to be cut. I can cook. I can section things off to eat for meals. I can do a lot of very, very positive things with a knife. Very positive things, but I can also do negative things. But am I going to blame, is the knife at fault for what I do with it? So when it comes to Christianity, what people do with it shouldn't be a negative reflection on what Christianity should be. And a knife should be for very positive purposes. A knife isn't intended to to murder someone maliciously. That's not a knife. If a knife had a brain, a knife wouldn't sign up for that. I like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, if a knife could talk, a knife wouldn't be like, hold on a second, I didn't sign up for this. What are you doing? So Christianity is very similar. Like, if someone wants to weaponize Christianity, look, that's on you, and it makes you look stupider. And so that's the thing. Like, I don't think that the heart of Christianity, when it comes to do justice, have peace, love mercy, and when it talks about Micah, and I think at the end of the day, we should be very serious about those things. So what someone wants to do about with that, it doesn't make the Christianity bad. It makes the Christian bad. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with God. Micah 6:8. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful verse that really should encapsulate the Christian mind. Now, if it doesn't have to do with justice and loving mercy and walking humbly with God, anyone who wants to use that and weaponize it, they're not Christian. They're not living as a Christian. They are having a form of holiness but denying the power thereof. They're not practicing what they preach if they want to weaponize it and say, hey, forgive me. Shut up, forgive me. No, hold on a second. Yes, forgiveness is beautiful. It's again, I can do a whole show on what forgiveness and how it's important. I talk to clients all the time about this, how essential it is for the mind, for mental health to forgive. That doesn't mean that what you did was okay. That doesn't mean that we got to be best friends. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean none of that. It just means that I'm asking for your forgiveness, and us forgiving Hulk Hogan means that he's no longer going to allow. We're no longer going to allow Hulk Hogan to live in our head rent free as a culture. We're going to think above, rise above. Take our power back is what I tell a lot of clients by forgiving. Take your power back, man. Like, Hulk Hogan doesn't deserve the black man's collective vitriol. Like, no one does. I mean, like, because and the crazy thing about people, and I'm not saying this about Hulk Hogan, but the crazy thing about people is that a lot of times people troll and they do those things to incite the type of anger and pain and frustration, because they feel so bad and lonely and insecure themselves, that getting that is the attention that they want. That's the reason why people troll and just spew crazy stuff and negative stuff and just are so emotionally unstable on socials. You can go to anybody's social platform, on YouTube or Twitter. I mean, go to my stuff. People say stupid stuff all the time on my YouTube page. That's just a part of emotional instability. And so that's one of those things, man. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. James, the whole Hogan BOOED issue is the perfect example of why Benoit or any other conspiracy person could never be put in the Hall of Fame. If fans can't handle coming out, imagine the outrage of that. Here's the thing, man. With the Benoit stuff, there's a psychological concept called recency bias. And there's also the opposite of recency bias is primacy bias. So I think Hogan's getting a lot of primacy bias, but recency bias is the overall perception of someone based on the last type of serious events that they did. That's the perception. And so the thing is, sometimes I would even say a little bit more than sometimes, recency bias can have a very prominent role in the legacy that people live. There's been, very prominent Christian figures over the past few years that, were just an absolute mess. We found that out like right before or as they died. And that's what they're being known for now, because it was all a lie. You know what I mean? So when it comes to Hogan, is Hogan in the category of this was all a lie? And again, I'm really interested in knowing your thoughts on that. Is Hogan in the category of, is this all a lie to the pro wrestling community, or because of the social, conformity bias that I talked about before in previous sessions, is this another fad just to strengthen the insecure public voice of a group of people? Or is it justified? It could be that too. I mean, is it justified? Cool. I mean, let me know. Let me know why it's justified in your mind. And so, yeah, interesting. Let's see here. We're going to go. Some good questions, though. Good, huge questions. Oh, here we go. I think that one huge difference is that someone like Austin have a physical dispute with his partner offends that woman, but not a whole group. That's not true. Yeah, it offends it offends women in general. Hogan's racism offends a whole population. I think that if you Austin having a physical dispute with a woman, it offends women, especially, and it offends the whole culture too, because it's a very heinous act, and that's a physical act instead of a verbal act. Sometimes people are much more impacted by something that happened physically than verbally. I mean, if a white person came to me right now and called me the N-word, I would just look at you like you're stupid, like you're an ignorant person who's trying to work me up because you're insecure, you're despicable, and you're just showing me right now that your emotional quotient level is very low, and you're trying to get someone to come down to your ignorant, despicable level. Simple as that. See you, bye. God loves you. I can pray for you if you want me to. I mean, real talk. There's a difference between that and if someone hits me or is physically abused. Like, bruh, you can say what you want. I mean, you can say what you want. It's not illegal, honestly. I mean, if you even want to talk from a legal, again, this is not acceptable. What he did was unacceptable. It was absolutely unacceptable. And by no means am I going to justify what Hulk Hogan did. It was, you can't pay me to do that. But it's just, again, I'm just I'm really churning and doing some. I'm a psychology doctor, so I'm going to say some thought provoking things that cross both sides of the bridge to just really churn your thoughts on this and just really have you critical think. Just you, Roland, and everybody else. I'm a big guy. I'm a big proponent of critical thinking, man. I'm a huge proponent. I'm going to say things on both sides. Like, is this like if someone legitimately has an issue with someone laying hands on them versus someone verbally saying something about them, that person would be more affected or influenced negatively by someone hitting someone. So can't really say that across the board. Another comment. I feel like racists want Black Americans to forgive other races, so the racists continue to practice their racism without discomfort. That definitely could be true, but that's not true across the board, though. That's not true across the board. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like, are we so pro-Black that we're ignorant, toward just a more objective way of thinking? And again, I'm gonna say things that might step on some toes, but I just want you to critically think. It's just, this isn't, oh, I disagree, Roland, with what you're saying. Because I don't wholesale disagree with what you're saying. I think that there's some truth in what you're saying, but I do want to. I do want to raise some questions for you to just critically think and just chew on and reflect on. I will say I don't see that being an objective statement wholesale. I don't see that. Are elements of that true phenomenologically? Yeah, absolutely. Is it? It doesn't make it okay. I think it's stupid. I think it's ridiculous. I think stuff like this is also things that we collectively as a unified body, a unified culture can have very respectful, very loving, very charitable, hard, tough conversations about, as far as how ridiculous and unacceptable it is for any race to be prejudiced or to discriminate or to be racist. I mean, it's just unacceptable. It's ignorant, man. Like, racism is just ignorance. Like, you really think, I don't care what color you are, you really think that a color of your skin causes you to have prominence over someone else? Think about how silly that sounds. It's just silly, dude. Like, it's just a silly thing. Like, I personally am in an echelon of people as a doctor, as far as socioeconomic status. I'm in an echelon of people that is driven, like the color of their skin is green. Like that's SES. I mean, that's basically where we're at here. Like, it's just, there's a top percentage of people that have certain income, that in some certain income brackets, that it doesn't matter if you're Black or white, you still have certain levels of you're in a level of social economic status. So there's a lot of Black entrepreneurs, Black doctors, Black businessmen that are far and above, more higher, have a higher SES than non-Blacks. Does that give the Black person with a higher SES the right to minimize and condescend a non-Black person? Heck no. Like, it doesn't whatsoever. We need to come together, bond together. And what does that look like to better our society, to build generational positive mental health? That's what I care about. How can our kids be sane? And arguing over daggone color of skin it's antithetical to that, and it's silly and it's stupid. All right, I'm off my soapbox, y'all. but I mean what I say though. All right, so what else do we have? Bo. Yeah, okay. We have Kane is a Republican and Trump supporter. Yes. Again, what I mean, okay. So if Kane is a Republican and Trump supporter, why isn't he canceled? I mean, that's what makes him different. Well, Hogan is able to speak the RNC and go overboard with the support for what do you mean? What's overboard? What's if a Republican supports a Republican? What's overboard? What does that mean? For his support for Trump because Hogan has nothing to lose. Austin and Raw can't alienate fans, but Hogan alienate 13% of the country. Okay. I mean, again, man, you know, Rollin, you're one of my favorite just people as far as supporters and followers. And I'm hearing and I'm listening to your comments and I'm really intrigued by them. But I'm lost in a sense in a certain way. I want you to break that down for me. We probably don't have the time to do it now, but I mean, again, I don't want you to have cognitive bias when it comes to, yes, I don't like Hogan. So therefore, I'm going to try to find everything that doubles and triples and quadruples down my dislike for Hogan. Nah, that's not thinking objectively, because if he alienated 13, like this is what I'm thinking. If he alienated 13% of the country, he potentially didn't alienate 87% of the country, which is the vast majority. And I know 13% of the country is, you know, I imagine you're talking about the African-American population within the country. And so, and did he alienate all of them? And so, again, those are things that I'm thinking about as we're breaking this down here. What does overboard mean? Why does that even matter? I mean, because the thing is that you also can't get to you also can't defend because it's just not factually true. You also can't defend that every black is a liberal or a Democrat, because you have black Republicans too. Yeah, so I mean, all those factors are really, really interesting. What's up, Humble? Hogan's racist rhetoric has hurt his brand. Why does WWE still allow those with questionable issues back into the WWE universe? Because it's a business. It's a business. I mean, it's a business. Does every business fire someone because they say the N-word? Should they? Perhaps. Are the executives along with them saying the N-word too? Perhaps. Is this okay? No, absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, I agree. His racist rhetoric has definitely hurt his brand. But again, it goes back to others have said that. Why hasn't their brand been hurt as much as Hogan's? I still haven't had an answer with that. I still haven't got an answer. And it just makes me wonder, like, doesn't even exist. I mean, like, what? I haven't got an answer to that. That I can understand and just like, okay, that makes sense. Like, okay, you got like that's one right there that I'm like, yep, okay, that one there makes sense of why Hogan is different than everybody else. I just, because I'm pushing it more, it just makes me thinking like, does this even, I mean, is there an answer? Is there a reasonable answer? I haven't got it yet, but I mean, I'm open. I'm here. So we'll see. Av says, I feel fans just want to be a part of the wave. I mean, you know, I talked about that in previous episodes as far as the legitimacy of that, for sure. Yosef said, I don't get why people hating Hogan but not hating Vince, especially if he's guilty, because people rather hate than forgive. You know, and that's another thing. I mean, this polarizing culture that we're dealing with. I mean, it's just, why so polarizing? Why? What is that going to do? How is that going to help that the culture of the society is so polarizing? Like, Y'all can't talk. Y'all can't have civil conversations like adults on Twitter because you disagreed, especially wrestling fans. Like, bruh, you disagreed that CM Punk won the match over Seth Rollins. Now y'all calling each other out your names. What? What? That's just stupid. It's silly. It's stupid. It's immature. And it absolutely makes society look so just airheaded. I mean, it's horrible. It really is horrible. And it's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing. Hogan at his age of 71, his apology would not mean anything because his life is almost over. What? Really? Really? So there's an age limit to apologizing and forgiveness? In your 50s and 60s, you say, I'm a racist. So you don't stop being a racist when you're caught. Yeah, I can't rock with that one, my man. I can't rock with that one. Yeah. Yeah. Why would it not mean anything? I mean, just because can someone have a complete spiritual awakening at 71 years old? If he has a spiritual awakening and says, you know what, I created one of the biggest gaffes, and if not the biggest, probably the biggest gaffe in my entire life in 2005, when I said those things, I'm not even going to spend the time trying to justify or say just ridiculous things, even if it's true, even if I never heard the N word before, and how I was raised, it wasn't a derogatory. Nah, bruh. Nope. Again, like I said, read the room. Read the room. We're not here for that. It doesn't make things better. Don't do that. But just because he's 71, he can't have a spiritual awakening and try to make good with the community that you just said that he made bad with. He can't try. No one's there's a age threshold to make good with something that you did wrong. No, man, I can't rock with that, my man. Elvis said, I still like Hogan. No apology needed from me. I mean, I think he should apologize. I mean, that's again, I'm coming for everybody on both sides of the bridge. He absolutely needs to apologize. I mean, this is something that it's super clear that there's a wide group of people, both black and white, who are calling cap when it comes to Hulk Hogan promoting his Real American Beer brand. We don't want to hear about your brand. We want to hear the heart and soul of your life, and does it align with legitimately feeling apologetic to showing or saying your views secretly, confessing your views on an entire culture. So like apology, a heartfelt, sincere apology is needed. But here's the thing that we ain't going to do, though. We ain't going to force it out of you because we want it to be genuine. So that's where the booze actually can help. Like, look, we don't want you in our space. You haven't even apologized to me. You haven't even apologized to us yet. We like, nah, fam, you're not invited to the cookout because you haven't even right your wrongs from before. So here's the thing. If like when it comes to an apology, like if you did something that was completely wrong, unprovoked, it was all on you, you did a wrong thing, and you have nobody else to say, I was like it was a a provocation, which the N-word shouldn't be anyways. But if someone says he called me a derogatory term and I called him back, I mean, okay, that's something that we can talk to on a different level. But unprovoked, completely derogatory, completely initiated, like no, there's no way out of this. Like, you're not invited to the cookout to many people until you until until you make good with the family again. You ain't invited to the cookout. So if you show up unannounced, bro, no, we don't want you here. And that's essentially what LA said yesterday. I'm just speaking as a PR person for LA yesterday. That's what they said to Hogan. So I do again. I'm crossing both sides of the bridge, y'all. Like I'm coming from both sides. Tap Out Talk said, yes, people make mistakes, and ultimately remorse being shown as a step in the right direction. Sure thing, man. You think, you'd hope, right? You'd hope that all of us would have an opportunity to be forgiven. So, first of all, over 500 people live with me right now, rocking with me. Y'all, of course, amazing. Humble, why is it's selective outrage? Bingo. Why is X-Pac in the WWE Hall of Fame, but not China alone? She was not in that explicit tape by herself. Exactly. Selective outrage, and that is an absolute it's a very dark mark to society by so many people having selective outrage, and it comes along with cognitive bias as well. So yeah. All right. Yeah. You're like, there's a lot of Flair and McMahon also do not wave an American flag because it's not their gimmick, or use a song that calls himself a real American. They didn't tell kids to eat vitamins and pray. They didn't try to be a role model. Because it wasn't their gimmick to do so. And just because they didn't try to do those things doesn't mean they're not just as guilty as Hogan. Like, Hogan was a gimmick, and he lived his gimmick, and that was his gimmick, period. All the other names that if they're as guilty as Hogan, just because Hogan was an American gimmick doesn't make him worse than three other people who committed heinous crimes allegedly. Like, it doesn't make someone worse because he was handed a gimmick that worked. And yeah, it's a gimmick. Again, it doesn't make any, there's none of if all four of those people were guilty, all four of those people would be the allegations would just be unacceptable, and all four of them should be evaluated to come back to the cookout, and all four of them should not be admitted to the cookout if they ain't trying to make things right again. And but all four of them should have the opportunity to make things right again to come back to the cookout. That's where I stand. Nav, what do you think is next for Roman? Okay, yeah. So I'll get more information on that. But yeah, we're doing Hogan stuff now. I'll get more information on that. KS Wheels, Hulk Hogan is a pathologized liar. Like, if his lips are moving type, that hurts my attempt at an apology. Yeah, well, I'm gonna be real with you. I'll be real with you. If it hurts your attempt, that means that you just need to build strength in that area. Simple as that. I mean, come on now. We got to be honest with ourselves, y'all. There's none of us that are so anti-Hogan right now that can open up our resume, that can open up our scrapbook and say, "Ooh, look at the perfection here." Like, there's just There's none of us. There's literally none of us. There's 507 people live right now that cannot say, including me, not including me, but now including me, none of us, over 500 people right now that are tuned live to the show at 1:09 a.m. cannot, Eastern time, none of us could say that we have an absolute clean portfolio that did not do or say something deplorable, despicable. And guess what? Hopefully, prayerfully, someone apologized for us. Someone forgave us. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. All right. I know that y'all really feel a lot about this, but I'm coming from both sides, y'all. I'm coming from both sides. Like, I think it's important for both sides to understand things from a much wider perspective. It's really, really important because this is way beyond Hulk Hogan, man. This goes beyond Hulk Hogan. This is from a standpoint of it is the responsibility for the person and the community to make things right. If the person make things right and really generally show that him or her makes things right, man, I mean, who are we to just outcast someone and we weren't outcasts for crazy things we've done too? Like, you want to talk about hypocritical? Like, that sounds a bit hypocritical to me because none of us deserve to be at the cookout. all of us had to realize that, you know what, we gotta right some things. We gotta right some wrongs, and we gotta enjoy each other collectively. But guess what? There's certain people who create their own group and create their own cookout, and they're just not good influencers. And you don't want to be at their cookout anyways. But when it comes to our culture, when it comes to my culture, when it comes to certain particular things that people do towards a culture, all right, man, look, there's a bunch of my peoples back there that don't want you to cook out. And they're like, hey, Doc, talk to your boy. Like, I know that y'all cool. I know that. But what he did to us was dead wrong, y'all. It was dead wrong, Doc. You talk to your mans. Talk to your mans. It's hard for me. It's hard for me. And all of us have in some way been a part of that. Like we've talked to the person who we're cool with to get back into the cookout. And I do think it's important. I would say that it's very, very important for Hulk Hogan to not get into this. Like, bro, we don't care about your gimmick too much anymore. We don't care about to let me tell you something, brother. I think it would be so dope. Let me be honest with you. I think it would be so dope if Hogan came to a city. I don't care if it's blue or red, regardless. I think it would be so dope if Hogan came out to Real American, was about to promote this Real American beer, and just straight up did a shoot promo. He's such a promo. He's such a good talker that he can if it's really from the soul, he can really, I think that he could have the ability to tug on the people's emotions because, like it or not, y'all, I know that we in our feelings as a culture, as a group. I get it. I'm not even mad at it, in many ways. But we want to like Hulk Hogan. Like we want to like. I've even talked to wrestlers about that. Like black wrestlers. Like we want to like Hulk Hogan. Like, and I think as a society, as pro wrestling fans, we want to like Hulk Hogan, right? But I do think it's important for Hulk Hogan to man up in many ways, and just like, man, it'll be so dope if he came out as Hulk Hogan and just went straight shoot. You know what? I'm taking the Hulkamania shirt off. I'm gonna be real with you. It's Terry Bollea. Like, I heard y'all. It definitely didn't fall on deaf ears. Kill this gimmick stuff for now. To my African American culture, I will never understand why you feel the way that you feel about me. But one thing I do understand is your heartfelt disdain for what I did. And for that, I absolutely apologize. It was wrong. I'm not going to sit here and justify anything that I did or said, because it was wrong. It was absolutely wrong. So I don't deserve your apology, but I beg of your apology. And I really, really hope that you find it in you to forgive me. I think that would get an applause. Why? Because we want to like Hulk Hogan. Because we want to like him. Because he's a real American, y'all. All right. A lot of people, other people in their feelings about him. Honestly. So it's all right, good. I'm going to say this real quick. Religion, all of them, have been a plague on the world since day one, have held back the progress of civilization for hundreds of years. Religion has caused more death, pain, and suffering than any. The interesting about any other one thing that's ever existed. The interesting thing about that, D, is that you say that religiously. Think about that for a second. Zubair, would you agree, because Hogan is being discussed, goes to show the argument of Stone Cold versus Austin's star power still goes to Hogan, as he was big enough to get a reaction from outside wrestling? Big enough to get a reaction from outside wrestling. Yeah, I mean, again, that's that Stone Cold versus Hogan stuff. Stone Cold versus Hogan's star power. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, again, that's subjective, man. It really is. I mean, yeah, it's subjective for sure. I disagree if the woman hits Austin first or the female hits a man first and Austin or any man defends himself. So we don't know that. And that wasn't even my argument. That's a straw man. How can Austin offend all women like Hogan offended all black people? See, you gave a qualifier though. You gave a qualifier first. You said if the woman hits Austin first or the female hits the man first. That's not. I never brought that qualifier up. I'm talking about if a woman was if there's been allegations of many wrestlers that's been that said the N-word. There's been Hall of Famers, other Hall of Famers that has been caught saying the N-word. There's been audio tapes of very, very popular names saying N-words. Come on, bruh. There were promoters in the 80s and 90s saying the N-word. Vince McMahon himself said the N-word to John Cena. And did he get booed? No, he didn't get booed. I think that was one of the stupidest things that he's ever done on television. And the only thing that we got was Booker T at the end of that segment said, "Tell me he didn't just say that." Nah, bruh. Y'all kept, I'm not saying you particular, but people kept talking, kept cheering Vince McMahon. The dude said the N-word to John Cena in a segment. Somehow that was cleared by the network to do. What? But no, like, come on, man. We can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. We can't cancel one and not the other. I don't care if it was a joke. It's not funny. Like you're a white dude saying an N-word to another white dude, and y'all just sitting there playing it, and then Booker T's there, like, tell me he didn't just say that. They all, Vince McMahon signs their checks, but that by no means does that make it justified. Come on. Like, Vince McMahon was not canceled because of that. He's been cheered, and that happened 10 years ago. Like, nah, man. If and that was, I think that was even longer than that. That was King Booker. That was around what, 07, 06, 07 time. So that was, what was that? 18 years ago? Come on, man. Like, Vince McMahon, from a fan's perspective, to the very last time that he stepped foot and he was a part of WWE television, he was not booed. He was cheered. Every time that guitar strums and No Chance comes on, unless he's trying to be a heel, he gets cheered. Nah, man, we can't do that. We can't do that. We cannot do that, man. Robert, this is good conversation you're having. So people listening and learn and adapt. Situation arises, just have a normal conversation with a person. Give the good word. Thank you, man. I appreciate that very much. So, very much so. All right, y'all, we got to go. This has been wonderful. This has been absolutely wonderful. This is beyond what I imagined and more. This was absolutely amazing. All right, let me address something as someone who hasn't asked a question yet. No one who actually cares about a certain word would even have an opinion. What about the CRA? So a word, a derogatory word to a white person, yeah, it's derogatory. I mean, at the end of the day, it's derogatory. Both ends are unacceptable. Neither end is acceptable. It's bad. It's horrible. We all need to work on improving ourselves every day, every single day. We need to, if we messed up, we need to apologize. We need to feel sorry about it. We need to admit it, own it, grow from it, move on, get better. I mean, that's people. That's people, period. Hogan's a part of those people. He's one of those people who need to do exactly what I just said. So does everybody else in that arena. So does me. So does everybody else here. The 532 people that are live right now. All right, y'all. All right, let me see. Man, this has been awesome, y'all. I got it. Let me see if there's something that really brings out. Yeah, great comments, y'all. Fantastic comments. All right, y'all. All right. Come to my Patreon. We're gonna be there for a very short time. I mean, very short time. This was went longer than expected, but it was very necessary. This goes beyond Hogan, man. This goes beyond Hogan. This is a conversation that we needed. We needed this conversation as a population tonight. We needed that. Like, this is more than just a psychology session in a class. This was a symposium of sorts, and we needed this. So there's a really good chance. There's a really good part of me. Thank you, Roland. There's a really good part of me that feels like I'm going to be watching this repeatedly, because we needed this tonight. So this was great, y'all. This is fantastic. All right, y'all. Be sure to hit that YouTube button. Be sure to like. And again, man, like, this was great. I think we all just need to really self-reflect, man. We really, all of us need to self-reflect. All of us. All of us are guilty as charged for what we're guilty as charged for. And Hulk Hogan's no different. Pay his punishment, or whatever that is. But man, just one of my master's degrees in criminal justice with the specialization in behavioral sciences, and one of the worst things, and statistically, one of the worst things that people deal with who've committed a crime is that stench, that communal stench that comes afterwards. If someone robbed the bank, it is totally not okay. You serve your 10 years, you serve your 12 years. That's what you deserved. Don't rob if you didn't rob the bank, you wouldn't have served the time. But a lot of times people go through a lot of, ex-offenders, they go through a lot of mental health issues. What my dissertation talks about offenders. One of the biggest things is that they go through a lot of mental health issues, because what happens is they serve their time. They robbed the bank. They went to jail for armed robbery. They served 12 years. Now they can't get a job. Now they can't get a house. Now they can't buy a new car. Now they're broke. Now they're not assimilating well. Now they're outcasted by people. I mean, we have to think about stuff like that, man. So, and then they become suicidal. It's real talk. It's a real thing. They become suicidal because the stench of their bad deed becomes so it becomes so lasting that they can't, like, society doesn't forgive them for something Jesus already forgave them for, and for something that they're always going to repeatedly work on forgiving themselves for. Like, man, robbing that bank, that was such a horrible idea. That was horrible. Why did I do that? I served my time for it. I pay my punishment. But because society won't accept me after serving this time, now I don't feel like I'm a contribution to society anymore. And people legit get suicidal because of that. So we got to think about those things, y'all. We really got to. We are all guilty as charged for what we're guilty as charged for. We all need forgiveness. We all need to repent and say, it's on me. I did it. I need to learn from it. And I need to generally feel like as long as you know me, this won't happen again. This won't happen again. So that's my encouragement for Hulk Hogan. Don't let that happen again. And there's a lot of us that want you back to the cookout, but you got some vetting to do, my brother. And I just hope that you spend the time that you have left on this life to really focus on that. And you don't want to alienate so many people by not showing us that you genuinely apologize. So that's my encouragement to you, brother. There's a lot of us that wants Hulk Hogan back to the cookout because he has a lot of stories to share. So with that being said, enjoy your week of wrestling. God bless. And always remember, I do it for you. Have a good night, buddy. So